Debra Morrison, a 42-year financial expert. Welcome to the We Can Do It Women movement, where women 50 and wiser step into the spotlight and make the rest of their lives the best of their lives. I'm your host, Debra Morrison, a wealth building expert and champion for extraordinary women just like you. For over 47 years, I've helped women secure their financial futures, and now I'm on a mission to ignite a revolution. Yep, showing the world that at 50, 60, 70, and beyond, some of us might be a nickel slower, yet we're all just getting started. And our esteemed guest today comes to us from Woodbridge, Virginia, Mindy Green. Mindy's a speaker, author, and parenting and family communication coach with a background as a clinical social worker. All right, put your seatbelts on. After homeschooling her 4 children for more than 18 years, K through 12, she brings a deep lived understanding of family life to her work, blending neuroscience and personality insights to help relationships feel less reactive, wow, and more connected. Now a grandmother, Mindy loves helping women recognizing, love this, that the years they spent caregiving for others have built wisdom and skills that still matter. She believes every season of life prepares us for the next and that our impact continues to grow with time. Mindy, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Deborah. I appreciate that so much. And I love your mission.
Oh, right now, right now. So thank you so much for being with us because you have such rich wisdom to share with us. And your credentials are very, very esteemed. Your master's of social worker at the University of Maryland. You're a certified parenting blueprint coach, and you're known as Mama Mindy Green. Talk to us about Mindy Green coaching and the personality. Wait a minute, I don't have the right name. Parenting with Personality platform, please.
Certainly. So, yes, I have done a whole bunch of things. And I think when I look back on them, they all tied together. And the common thread was parenting, but it's also just being part of a family and knowing what to do with that. And so, as my 2 younger children, I have 4 children, my 2 younger ones were in high school, and I was like, oh goodness, I spent at that point 15, 16 years homeschooling. I was like, what am I going to do now? I had a career. I put that on hold to be able to stay home when we had our 4th child, just, because it was so much.
Yes.
And, so I decided I just really wanted to put a lot of thought into it. I didn't want to go back into the school environment and be a school social worker. I felt like I had missed too many years of being in that. And so I
Okay.
was thinking. And that's when parent coaching came up and looking at communication, the dynamics, and yeah. And so I just added in some things that I really enjoy because I am a neuroscience geek. So I love everything neuroscience related. And then having like something like the DISC, which is a personality assessment,
Yes, of course.
to be able to put that into the context of a family and how that can enrich the lives of everyone there just made so much sense.
Well, for sure. Now, I'm a neuroscience person. I'm interested very much in neuroscience too. So, tell us about the neuroscience connection. Which came first? Obviously, you experienced quite a bit of hands-on with your children and now 2 grandchildren. So, talk to us about the neuroscience element, please.
Certainly. So the neuroscience element to me really was trying to figure out, why do we behave the way that we do? Why do we do the things that we do? How can we change them and really and make that sustainable? And so that's why I really dove into neuroscience, and I got my certificate in that, and from a wonderful institute that the neuroscience coach just gave us so much, a wealth of information. And I just feel like that gives us the framework to understand all behavior and personalities and temperaments, and you name it, it has it all. And then it also gives us hope. And that's really what I wanted to be able to encourage
Yeah.
parents, women of any age, to know that they might have done things a certain way, or they might have been raised a certain way, and knowing that they wanted to do things intentionally different,
Yes.
that we're capable of changing, and then giving them some strategies to actually do that. So that's where the neuroscience piece came in.
Well, that is so rich. And I just read your LinkedIn post of a day ago, and you say one of the biggest shifts in my parenting didn't happen when my child changed. It happened when I did. Years ago, I stood in the kitchen wondering why every small request from my oldest daughter turned into a debate. It felt like stubbornness. But when I began learning more about personality and how people are wired, something
Mm.
clicked. What you had been seeing as defiance was actually independence. The child hadn't changed. My lens had. How profound. And I commend you for, what must have just been a mountain of evidence you had every week, probably every month with your kids, especially like,
Every day, Deborah.
okay, every hour. Let's get serious. So what were their ages like? Right, like bam, 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 like right in a row, and you had like two, and one was learning how to do the colors, and the other one was multiplication. I mean, cut me a break. How did you do this?
A very good question. So I really, the reason why I wanted to have my kids at home and homeschool them was I wanted them to have the opportunity to really delve into the things that they were interested in and curious about. So we did have a curriculum. And I want to say, yes, my kids were very close together. So the way that it worked out was that when my oldest daughter was in kindergarten, I was pregnant with our fourth. And then by the time she finished out that year, I had had our fourth child. And so her first grade year, we had this newborn baby. So I had a 6-year old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year old. And I had a baby in a backpack. And that's how I taught that her first grade year. And then, we figured it out because it was really something that I wanted to do. Was it easy? No. Did I wonder sometimes what I got myself into? Yes. And I also have to say that, I used to say to a friend who had been homeschooling for many years, I would say to her, I'd call and I would cry because it was kindergarten year and both of my parents were educators. And, so I was like trying to prove myself. And so my child was going to read by the time we got halfway through kindergarten year. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
That did not happen. And so I would call this friend and I would say, her was Grace, and oh gosh, did she give Grace? And she
I'm
would,
gonna say, great.
yes, yes, it was the perfect name and the perfect person to talk to. And I would call her and I would cry and I'd say, Grace, my daughter just isn't getting it. And this is kindergarten. And I never will forget this. She would just say so calmly back to me, she'd say, Mindy, yes, it's kindergarten. And see the difference there? Like I was putting so much emotion and intensity into that. And then she was just like, yeah, breathe. It's kindergarten. She's not going to graduate high school and not know how to read, so it's like it just put it in perspective. And that's that change in that lens that I was talking about on that post that you had mentioned earlier.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Well, you're an author of three books, and I commend you. I've skimmed two of them. These three books are Understanding Your Child's Personality, Solving the People Puzzle, Ready, Set, School, A+ Routines for Back to School Success, and Sammy's Super Stretchy Shoelaces. Now, I love this because I don't know, it just, that title just grabbed me. And Sammy's in his bedroom, and I'm reading as a quote, "What if your shoelaces had a mind of their own? Because some days just don't go as planned. Sammy's shoelaces won't cooperate, and neither will his feelings. One twist leads to another as frustration builds, and nothing seems to help. But when Sammy remembers to pause, breathe, and stretch out his thinking, something surprising happens." Oh my gosh, what a great analogy.
Yes. And, the fun thing about writing that book was that actually was inspired by my grandson, my older grandson, who was having an issue with his own shoelaces. And his dad had, bless his heart, had gotten him these shoes with these super long shoelaces. And so I just remember him trying so hard and he wanted to please us. And it's like each day they just seemed like they got longer and longer. And so we created a story about that. And he was the illustrator. And then as he and I were talking one day and we were looking over this book, I was like, you know what? I think that would make a great story. So I found an illustrator and then I wrote out the story and she illustrated it. And then voila, Sammy's super stretchy shoelaces.
Was born. Oh, love that. And I look forward to reading the rest of it. Before you did this, before you were formally coaching, you spent years as a homeschool educator, designing the curriculum, as you mentioned, and you worked as a case manager and school social worker, providing family group and individual therapy in school settings. And then you hold the certificate, the Parenting Blueprint Coach, love that, quantum human design level one specialist and certified life coach. Wow. This whole melding of emotional intelligence and personality with kids. Like, is anybody like thinking, dang, I would have liked to had some of that integration as a kid too?
Yes. Well, I'm raising my hands here because I didn't grow up with that, you know. So I went to college and I went to grad school and I learned some of it, and then, real life taught me a lot more. And then and I don't even know, and perhaps we did when we were growing up, that we had language for this, but I don't know that we did.
I don't know as we did either. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so just it's been amazing just to see the advancements that we've made in understanding emotions and the brain and why we do the things that we do. And that's one of the things that I fell in love with the DISC personality assessments was
Yes.
because it gave a context to, what makes us unique and what our strengths are, and also like what can also create some challenges in our relationships. So
Yes.
it just ended up being such a great fit, and brought everything together. That in the neuroscience brought everything that I've been working on pretty much my whole life together.
Yeah, and you describe it as Mindy bringing and understanding the why behind behavior, right? The
Yes.
neuroscience, the personality science, the emotional intelligence, and the nervous system. And you have plans and techniques for parents, for educators, and tell us a few of those so that the parents and the grandparents in our audience can implement them.
Certainly. So and I like to try to keep it simple because if it's not simple, then I'm not going to understand it either. And so
Good.
basically, I just look at like, that we set the tone in our homes and in our workplaces, wherever we find ourselves and in whatever stage of life we're in, we set the tone. And so first of all, it's about us learning to regulate ourselves. That's just basic things like, bringing awareness to what we're feeling, being able to name it and feel it and
For
not
sure.
try to push it away. I mean, I was like an expert at that, just because, growing up, probably like many of our listeners, we weren't taught that, many emotions were acceptable. Maybe angry and frustrated, but those were like only to a certain point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I just wanted to give families this opportunity to have this context to be able to understand, all of that. And so that's what I do. I equip parents with that. I equip educators. And for educators, I'll say that, to understand that they only have to figure out like four different types of personalities, because that's what DISC
It is,
is,
yes, yes.
you're looking at four personalities and, and blends of that. It makes it easier when you have a classroom of 30 kids to say, oh, okay, I get why they're acting that way. Because when we don't understand a behavior, we can be offended by it.
Yes, we can. Yeah. A lot of misunderstanding happens. And boy, when the child senses that their teacher or mother, in your case, gets them, that has to exponentially accelerate learning. I mean, it's just, I don't have any scientific stats, but it feels to me like that would do great wonders for that kid.
Well, I think because we know from like even from Abraham Maslow's work, the hierarchy of needs,
It
some of the
is.
most basic needs besides physical safety are the sense of belongingness. And so when we can help a child or, another person, whether it's another adult in our lives, whoever it is, to feel seen, heard, and understood.
There
I
you go.
mean, those are the keys, right? We've been given the keys to the kingdom to that person.
Yes, right now. And you've worked decades. What has surprised you most about how your purpose and influence has continued to unfold?
I love this question because, as I was saying, thinking of having an empty nest, I was wondering, well, what do I do now? Because I'd spent, my whole life, our oldest daughter was born on my husband and I 1 year wedding anniversary. So
Wow.
pretty much our whole married life had been
Yeah,
children
yeah,
and
yeah.
revolved around that. And we were very involved in everything. And so what has surprised me is that, a whole new world has opened up to me, and it's similar to the past one in that I'm bringing the things that I'm passionate about into it, and
Yeah.
I'm making something new that fits who I am now.
Right now, right now, right now. So, as the women are listening, what would you want them to hear if they may be wondering, consciously or subconsciously, whether this season of life still holds meaning, direction, or possibility for them?
Oh, I love that question too. I really want each woman who's listening to this, no matter your age, to recognize all that you have accomplished, first of all, and really be able to celebrate that. It might not have gone exactly the way that you thought it would. It might not look the same way that you thought it would
That's right.
or had envisioned it, but that, you can take those accomplishments and you can transform something from that into now. And, or you can also take a break and that's okay too. That
Yes.
we don't have to constantly push ourselves to be more, to do more. And it's really leaning into what it is that you want to do. So take this time at whatever stage you're in to really start to listen to yourself, to trust yourself, your intuition, because you know your body knows what it is that you need in this next stage.
Trust ourselves, isn't that? I mean,
Yes,
come home to
yes.
ourselves and honor that because so often we've been so outwardly focused. So I'm so enriched just reading your, not just reading your work and how you came into it. You're also co-host of Real Talk with the Parenting Blueprint Coaches podcast. So tell our viewers how they can be in touch with you because I'm sure that they'll want to.
Yes, and I would love for you to reach out to me if you're in that next stage and trying to figure out is there something else that is meaningful to you, or maybe you're a grandparent and you have, you're looking at interactions between maybe you and your grandchild or you and your child and your grandchild. Those are things too. So you can find me at my website, which is mindygreencoaching.com, or you can reach out to me by email at mindy@mindygreencoaching.com. Or you can find me I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn. So I have a pretty good presence different places. So please come and find me, ask questions, just have a chat because I love conversation too.
That's right. And I think some of your references have you down as Mama Mindy. So I'm just
Yes.
alerting
Yeah.
her.
So if you're on LinkedIn and you're looking for me, it would be, I think it's Mindy Green MSW. So
Yeah.
but you'll see me as Mama Mindy on there. Yes.
Well, you don't even look old enough to be a grandmother, and you have two grandsons, so God love you.
Oh,
This
thank you.
this
And
is
Deborah, I do have to say before my younger daughter had a baby, and so I do have so now I have a granddaughter as well. So my first granddaughter.
oh, exciting, exciting. Well, I'm so pleased, and that granddaughter is a blessed granddaughter for sure. And I am really eager to see what your next book coming out is because these three are really wonderful foundations and really good guidebooks for our listeners who are in touch with, I think, a different generation, and yet also it brings us home, right? So you're talking
Mhm.
about the neuroscience of, we can give from a so much easier from a cup that's overflowing, right? We've given to
Yeah.
ourselves, and now we're not looking at externally for our fulfillment. So I commend you. I still can't even imagine how you might have done that, but I commend you and I congratulate you, and I hope to have you back. So thank you for joining us, our viewers, on the We Can Do It Women show. Remember, I see you, I value you, and your greatest chapter is just beginning. And if today's episode sparked something in you, I invite you to check out Mindy's sites and have a chat with her because this is not a dress rehearsal. And so we want to be as meaningful and impactful with all of the generations as is possible because the world needs that right about now. So pay attention to your money and it will surely pay you back. Until next time, be well.